with our little hip tucks and untucks. If this is neutral pelvis, and you can see from the belt that that's fairly flat and level, what you're working with is finding basically your comfortable range between a tuck forward that brings you into a pelvic tilt a little bit that way, so it's a slight posterior tilt. This you can do quite strongly. It's mostly abs, it's normally not a difficult move or an uncomfortable one. And a little bit the other way, where you're going into an anterior tilt of pelvis, which does arch the back. And this one I suggest go lightly and comfortably. Don't strain it so you really, really arch your back. You're basically finding your range a little bit through these. You will also find that the knees will tend to softly bend a little bit if you watch legs. It's not a big knee movement, but if you'll just get the sense that they will tend to soften and come forward a little bit as you tuck up in front.
You need to clench your buttocks.
You don't need to, but you can add an accent. And this is just something that's a useful thing to think about. You can dance this one of two ways. It can either be quite soft through the range, where there's not going to be so much glutes involved. There may be a little bit in the main bit, but actually most of this tilt is driven through the front or through the abs. If, however, you want to make this sharp and accented, then there's a very definite glute at the end of it to give you a real snap. You probably won't get enough of a snap of just the abs, so it really is a sort of lock it both abs and hips, and you can get a very definite snap. I also suggest, if you're going into the backwards one, to not snap that as heavily. You can let it sort of drop, but you don't want to get really, really pull through your back to snap it. But you can make this movement quite sharp. So that's your little tuck and untuck. Or it can be smooth and floaty and smooth and floaty. Just as a little bit aside, this can also turn into a really rarely used shimmy, but just so you know it exists, which is an odd little shimmy that basically takes a little tiny tuck and untuck and tends to move both legs a little bit at once. And so that is your pelvic tucking and untucking.